Welcome to Camp Confidential, Beyond the Bars. I'm Katrina McLaren, and with my co-host Cheryl Womack, author, entrepreneur and philanthropist, we tell it like it is. In Season 1, we take you inside the walls of a women's federal prison camp. From pre-sentencing to navigating daily life behind bars, we offer practical advice, survival strategies and insights that no one tells you before you go in. No sugarcoating, no cliches. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only. Be sure to do your own research and consult a professional. Welcome to today's episode, which is titled Commissary and is based off the book How to Go to Camp, Surviving a Women's Federal Prison by V. Cheryl Womack, which is available now on Amazon. Now, this episode is going to walk you through what you need to know about Commissary, your one-stop prison shop. Cheryl, what's the first thing you need to know?
The first thing you need to know about Commissary is you need to establish how much money you think you'll have to spend. Hopefully before you've worked that budget out in advance. And by now you've taken the time to put the money through your True Links and Core Links so that you've got money for email and you've got money for phones. And now you see what's left over that you have to spend on commissary items.
We were talking in the last episode that you actually don't have anything when you come in, so you're starting from scratch. What's the most important items that you think you should be looking at if you buy and purchase from Commissary at this point?
Well, they give you sports bras and grandma panties. So now you're looking to get a couple sweatshorts, a couple sweatpants. Depending upon how much you're going to work out, you might want more or less of those, but you just at least may first have to start out buying one pair of, you basically get Walmart gray sweatpants and sweatshirts, or gray t-shirts or long sleeve t-shirts. And they're all this Walmart brand stuff that you get. So that's where they go and shop. And so the first thing you want to do is say, what do I need in the way of casual clothes? Or you're going to be in your greens all the time. And you can see some girls that are in their greens quite a lot because they don't have many things on the side to wear. They can't afford it.
So really, you've got to work out, you've got to know how much you've got to spend in Commissary. Really, that becomes quite critical.
What you're going to do is say, I need a brush. I need shampoo. I need toothpaste. I need a toothbrush. The toothbrush that you got is more like a travel toothbrush, and they'll come from time to time, but you're looking for the essentials. You want bar soap or some sort of body wash so that you can take a proper shower. You need shower shoes. Those are the essentials that you really just have to get, and they're not cheap. And there's a 30% markup on everything in Commissary, supposedly going to fund for the inmates, that out of the extra 30% at some point they'll do something with that money to have an event or do something back for the girls that are on site for, whether they have a movie night or whatever. But a sad story is that while I was there, shortly after I was there, it was discovered that the assistant warden who was there had stolen, it's a guesstimate, nobody knows factually because we didn't get to see it come out, but almost $2 million out of this slush fund. Now, my opinion on that is, if you were building this up to spend on the girls who were spending the money on it, why did you let it build that high? Why weren't you spending that money in increments along the way? And second, if that kind of thing is happening with this money, why don't you just quit charging them the extra 30% so they can afford more?
That's a very good way to put it. So obviously when you were there in the 15 months that you were at that camp, you didn't really see any improvements or that 30% markup for prisoner welfare being used to anything of.
No, I mean, you have a lot of people sitting there going, and I'm in prison. It's bizarre. It's bizarre to hear about some of the things that you hear about. And again, some of it can be rumor, some of it can be factual because you're in prison and everybody's got lots of stories to tell. But money was absolutely embezzled by that person, and her consequence, the only consequence we're familiar with, is that they transferred her to another prison.
She kept her job.
Yeah. As best we know, we never heard, and trust me, it's a rumor mill all through that thing. I think everybody would have known she'd been fired. She was there forever after she got caught.
Oh my goodness, the mind boggles. It's unbelievable what continues to, you find out as we go through this process. I mean, something
you know. You wish you didn't know because it makes you mad.
So something you were saying too is that you can wait in line for quite a long period of time. So it's important, right, to know how much money you've got to spend, because I'm assuming they're not going to let you have a line of credit.
Oh, no, there's no line of credit. I mean, as they literally punch into the machine to put on your record each thing that you buy as you buy it. And if it shows that you've zeroed out the money you have on your balance, you just have to tell them what you're putting back. It's like at the grocery store. If you don't have enough, put it back. You do not get more. And interestingly enough, usually you're buying enough stuff that you basically have to take your mesh laundry bag with you to fill up your stuff to carry it back because there's no grocery bags or plastic bags or anything to carry it with. So you basically have to take your laundry bag up so that you can get all your goods carried back.
Is commissary open every day through the weekends and that? So can you access it at all times or not really? Or what's the story there?
No, commissary is open Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. If there's a holiday on Monday, it might be Wednesdays and Thursdays. A couple times a year, maybe 3 times a year, they close down completely for a week or 2 weeks to do inventory, but they give you notice they're going to do it so you can shop in advance for what you need. But it is, and you get assigned by alphabet, by wherever your name comes in the alphabet. They take turns where they start from A to Z and then they do from Z to A. So again, depending where your name falls in the alphabet, your last name, that you're going to be assigned that day, and you cannot shop on another day. Once I became the town driver, I had the opportunity to, if I had to be off campus, let them know in advance and make arrangements to shop on another day. Or other gals who worked off site could either shop early because they opened early for them. And so if you have to go off site, some of those girls leave at 7 o'clock in the morning. And so they might have to ask for a different day to make arrangements to get in there.
Budgeting and understanding what day of the week you're allowed to go is really important. And I think we may have covered a little bit, but if you owe restitution, you need to factor that in, right?
I think that's such an important thing. When you're going in there, if you owe restitution, you really need to know that they're going to pull a minimum of $25 a month off your books. So if you have very little money, you may end up with $5 left over. You may end up with $10 left over or $2 left. You just need to know.
So what about the types of items that you can purchase from commissary? What's the quality of the food or what are you purchasing from there?
Well, it's all preserved canned goods or packaged goods. None of it's healthy or good for you. None of it. You can get big chocolate bars. You can get all sorts of candy, all sorts of potato chips. You can buy 12 packs of every kind of pop you can imagine. A lot of people drink Mountain Dew out of there. A lot of people, which Mountain Dew is one of the worst ones for your body that you could possibly drink, but a lot of girls like the Mountain Dew. They go buy a bunch of junk food. A lot of girls will buy because they're buying tortilla shells and they're buying chocolate and brown sugar and things like that so they can make things to sell in their business. And so again, it's hard for them to get started and they have to start with small bases, but once they do, then they have built up a little bit of funds. What happens is they don't get commissary back, but they can go to the person who owes them money and say, "Now I need you to get me tortilla shells, or I need you to get me some chocolate bars for the payback for your food," and that helps them build up more quantity for them to run their business. But so I mean, again, commissary is such a critical thing in there because it is how you pay your bills. It's how you collect your bills for things that you've done amongst each other in there, and it's also just your lifeline to have anything other than prison gear to feel normal.
So in a weird sort of way, commissary is like a bank. You're using it to pay for goods outside of, probably what you're allowed to do in prison. But you were saying that people are making healthier food. So I'm assuming, you've got to pay for that in some way.
Out there is probably loosely, I'm loosely referring to it because it could it's made fresh, unlike the instant potatoes you might get in the cafeteria and some things like that. So somebody's making it fresh, somebody's making it's a little bit warmer. They'll make slushies, with the pop and things like that you can get. Every now and then they serve ice cream, and I don't know how the girls figure out how to get more ice cream, but they do sometimes on Fridays. The other thing that you have to get at commissary is that you have to manage what you keep in your two tiered drawer cabinet where you keep all your goods that are locked in there. And there's just so much space. And so you have to make sure that you're buying, they have these little plastic bags that you have to buy. And you may want to put all your makeup in one. You may want to put all of your cups and noodles in one. You may want to put your toiletries that you use to go take a shower and brush your teeth in one, different things like that, and then just keep them separately. And then it becomes, you may want to put any medicine that you've bought or vitamins that you're taking in one, so that you're pulling them out and using what you need instead of having everything all mumbo jumbo inside. So if you don't want to eat in the cafeteria, you have to buy plastic bowls and you have to buy a spork because there's no eating utensils outside of the cafeteria and you're not taking them out of there. If you do, that you'd be in big trouble.
Well, you were saying actually while you were talking about that some of the women run a bit of a side hustle on organizing your shelves and things like that as well. So you've got to make sure that you purchase those sort of bags and that from commissary to be organized.
Right. And literally, one of the side hustles is people make organizers that hang on the back of your door, even though they're illegal to have, where you can really put a lot of ink pens and notepads and your toothbrush and toothpaste or hair ties or immediate things, that you might just want to reach into and grab. So they make, little like shower caddy things to take care of all that kind of stuff. It's very handy when you're trying to be organized in a very limited amount of space.
About a spork. I want to talk about the spork.
Well, I mean, what you've got to realize is a lot of girls won't eat in the cafeteria. They don't want to eat in the cafeteria. They'll make their own food. There are girls that literally all put their money together and decide who's the better cook of them, or they take turns cooking and they iron their food and cook their food in the microwave inside the dorm as opposed to going to the cafeteria. And the other reason I think they do that is some of them also are you go eat for your whatever your meal is, which is quite early. You're done before 4 o'clock, or before 4:30 for your dinner. So some people want to eat again, or they want to eat a little something later. And you won't have something later unless you're able to buy it on the commissary. That's another big item that you want to get. But again, most of the food that you can get there is junk food or packaged foods, and it's one reason why it's easy enough to see why a person who comes in at a normal size blows up and becomes substantially larger, because it's just not healthy food.
Do you have to purchase your own cutlery and cups, and how does that work?
Well, that's the other thing. To me, one of the most important things you buy through commissary is coffee. And of course, to have the coffee, instant coffee, you can get Folgers, or they have another blend. And I can't believe I can't remember the name of it, but everybody buys the other one besides the Folgers because it's just a stouter, better coffee. And then, with your crystals, you can make it as strong or unstrong as you want it to be. But there's a huge, outside of each of the dorms, there's a huge dispenser of hot water and cold water. So you can go there and get really hot, steaming water and put it on your instant crystals and have coffee whenever you want it, or the same for water. And you'll want at least two of those. And you have to buy, they're $5 each. And you have to buy those because you won't have anything to drink out of. There's nothing for you to use personally unless you buy it at the commissary or buy it off the secondhand market.
And of course, if you're buying items through commissary, you also don't you have to keep the receipts? Is
Well,
that an important part of that?
you keep your receipts, and you're supposed to keep every receipt. And I always kept them with my legal file, because what they can do at any given time is they can come in when they decide to raid your place or look at your inventory, and they can take a printout of everything you bought on commissary and see what you've got in your possession and match up and realize what you didn't buy there's one thing to say I have nail polish and that's not even sold here. It's another thing to say, I have cups of noodles, or I have hair dye, hair coloring dye, or I have 3 cups, and you show you bought one. So it's really easy for them to just print out a list, come in and have a look and see what you've got, and find out that you have more than you should have.
And then I'm assuming that it's confiscated and potentially you're written up. You could lose good time over silly little things like that.
They're coming to look, they're coming to write you up. You got in trouble. I mean, everybody looks the other way, and everybody has more than what they're supposed to have, that they bought either from one of the other prisoners in the place, or that they've gotten secondhand somehow. Everybody has those, from t-shirts to shorts to everything. But you get in trouble if you get caught having them. But because everybody has them, they look the other way.
So you can order special order items from commissary as well. Like what types of things can you get in that way?
Well, that's a really nice thing, because again, some of the side hustles are people do lovely beadwork. They'll do beadwork on hats. They'll make collars. They do a lot of embroidery, and they make these amazing little animals out of them that you can send home for your kids. Or, I mean, again, I think I've said before to people that if you could do business through the prison, somebody could organize and put prison work on Etsy and help them all make a little more money, because their stuff's adorable, very good quality. Some of them like their stuff so much they don't want to sell it and they keep it. But they do. Some people do lovely lace work. I bought a couple needlepoint kits because I like to needlepoint. They're so expensive, and you have to custom order. You've got to find out who on the site takes the custom orders and get those in. And those can take 2 weeks to a month. You have to do custom order for boots and tennis shoes. Like, that's not going to come in normal commissary. You're going to fill out a separate sheet and put those on, and they're not on your normal commissary sheet. And then when they come in after commissary is closed, if they have special orders in, they'll call out and announce to the campus through the PA system that we have special orders, and they'll call your name. And once your name is called, you can go up, pay for your goods. It's important when you get beads, crafts, shoes, boots, whatever you get, you try them on, you study what you got, because if it's wrong and you take it away from the site, it's yours. You can't return it. So you want to make sure it fits you, and you want to make sure that an entire kit was enclosed and you didn't just get part of a kit, because you'd have to just order another whole kit and it's on you.
Would have thought too that maybe getting some sneakers or something like that would probably be quite important. Otherwise, you're going to be only in those big, heavy prison boots that are designed and made for men.
Big selling item is when girls either go home from prison or girls go to another place, and let's say they have two pair of tennis shoes, and you're not supposed to have but one pair of tennis shoes, then, or they don't have receipts for those tennis shoes, then they'll give them up to big sisters, or they'll have a garage sale and they'll sell them. And so more tennis shoes are bought on the side, but you can, I mean, I bought my boots and I bought my tennis shoes through commissary because, again, I was able to afford it, and that worked out well for me. But, and I wore my boots when I came home, but I donated my tennis shoes to big sisters when I left.
I mean, you've mentioned before that, the stuff has quite a bit of a markup, but I understand too that you kind of need earphones, earbuds, if you're going to want to partake in anything or any type of Friday night movies or anything like that. How does that work?
Well, really, after you bought your basic toiletries, I think that's the next most essential thing that you want, unless you just don't like music, TV, or any movies. The only way you can listen to anything on TV, watch any movie, or have any music is to buy an MP3 player that they sell through commissary. And they have levels of them, from a not cheap. I mean, they start at $30, $35 with a basic set of earbuds, and they go up. And sometimes you'll get a less expensive MP3 player, but you might buy better earbuds because the connections to them break and go bad. So if you want to sit down in the TV room, you basically tune into the channel it gives you on the MP3 player, and then you can listen to that. There are 3 TVs going with different channels in the TV room. Or on Friday nights when they have the movies in all of them, you go in and they'll line you up and you get on the channel that they give you to get on and watch movies. And so by walking on the track a lot, you want music. And so, it costs about $1.25 per song. It's just like iTunes. But you really want to have some of that music. And the other thing you need to remember about an MP3 player is that every month you have to hook it into your system. It has a portal thing where you plug it in to your computer system.
Is
And
that TrueLinks?
TrueLinks, and you
Yeah.
refresh it. And if you don't refresh it, it just cuts off and dies. And then you have to go refresh it. And so you don't want to buy one secondhand because it's tied to that person's TrueLinks number or pack and pin numbers. And when they leave, that'll get cut off. And so once it's time to re-up it and get it in, they may have 3 days left. They may have 30 days left. They may tell you how much time they have left. They may not tell you how much time they have left. And so it's really important for you to buy your own.
So it's tied into someone's account as such. So
Yeah.
you can't just hand it over to someone else and say, "Hey, I've got 10 days of credit." Then it's not going to work beyond those 10 days. That's what you're
Right, and
saying.
it's not uncommon to have, 2 girls with earbuds, one in each ear, with the same thing, trying to listen to something because somebody doesn't have one. Either they just got there or they lost theirs. I mean, it's a big deal when somebody loses their MP3 player and people go on witch hunts to find them because, again, it's a lifeline to a world other than just being there with whatever the sounds of prison are.
You mentioned to me too that I'm assuming that through commissary, you buy postage, and this is the only other way that you post things out of prison. And I think you might have mentioned there was a markup on the postage. Is that right?
30%, which I worked at the post office when I was in high school, all through high school, and I thought it was against the law to mark up postage, but all the postage is marked up 30%. And postage is another source of money. So you can give somebody, they may say, I need postage stamps because I'm mailing things out of here. So people will say, get me postage stamps. If you want to mail packages, it's really expensive. I swear, you swear they put their thumb on the scale when they weigh stuff. It always seems to weigh more than you think it's going to weigh and takes more postage. I mean, a card that's been decorated that has any girth to it by one of the girls in there making cards could cost you $5 to send out.
Well, that doesn't make it necessarily very easy to communicate with the outside world.
For businesses saying that they're family friendly and want you to have communication with the real world, or the outside world, it's really difficult to stay in touch because it's expensive to do, either through phones, through emails. So if you're on a very minimum budget, you're just not going to get very many phone calls. You're not going to have very much mail to send out. You're not going to be on emails very often. You're going to do the free things that you can do on there to keep up with what's going on, or call outs, but you're not going to do many other things. And when that happens the most is when the longer you're in, and again, I was just there for 15 months. I say just, but if you've been there 3, 4, 5 years, you can see where people get tired of sending you mail. They get tired of putting money on your books. They forget you because you're out of their life. And so it really takes an effort on your part and their part to keep those lines of communication open. My husband did a great job of going out to everybody going, "Oh my God, you all need to send her cards." And so I got buried in cards for every holiday. And then he found out that I was putting cards out in other alleys so that other people could have them, because you'd see somebody and they never had anything. And I just take a real pretty card that somebody sent in, because man, they have some great cards they send in to you. And I'd, put it over at their bed. And so then he'd tell people that, and people would send them to me. And then people would think they're sending me a card so I won't sign it so I can use it with somebody else. And then I'd get called up in the middle of the morning because I had bad mail.
But talk about that just for a second. If you've got bad mail, what is classed as bad mail?
Bad mail is glitter, stars, blank index cards, cards that have it, because they treat everything like you're going to take the money and you're going to respend it, which you might, but they're saying, if you get a card and it isn't signed, you're going to sell that card. Now they sell gift cards through Walmart that you can go through a sample of, that they're not they're not that great. It's not that much of a choice. And when you see all the talented girls that are making cards with so many more creative things for less money or about the same money, you would just as soon get those. They don't make it easy or friendly for you to be able to keep in touch with your family. And it's expensive. Prison is expensive for people who are in prison.
Obviously, you need to purchase things if, depending on your age, feminine hygiene products and things like that. Is that all coming out of commissary?
When I first got there, if you needed commissary items for feminine hygiene, you had to buy everything. None of that was provided. About 6 months after I got there, for the first time, they decided they would start allotting 40 Tampax or 40 pads, or a combination of the two, once a month to each girl. And so I would go up and get in line, because I don't use either one of them. And I would get in line so that a lot of girls come in there and they're not very healthy, and they may have their period every day of the month and have had it for 6 months. And they will go through 40 tampons in a week, and they need more. And so, you want to do what you can to try to help them out, because they don't have the money to go buy additional tampons. Now, I find it interesting, sometimes in the world you hear things about tampon. They want to put tampons in men's bathrooms, but they don't have them readily available for prisoners.
Well, the whole prison system seems to be certainly very male centric. You're in men's clothes. I understand on your movie night, it's the men's prison that's determining the movie that the women's camp is watching. You don't get a say in that. It's very male orientated, and that's not to be sexist. It's just the way that it is.
And when you're saying that the women's prison element is growing 500 and some percent over the last decade, then when do they get recognized? I mean, when does a woman be recognized as a viable person that's in there, that's generating income for that prison, for them to be able to say, well, why don't we just let you buy women's sweatpants and t-shirts? Why don't we go ahead and allot you the tampons or the pads or something that you might need?
And for things like that, when you're dealing in that situation in a prison camp, I mean, these are run like businesses, and that's been the big thing to get my head around. Everything's marked up.
I don't understand that, because when you're going into commissary and you're buying something, those people are paid on salary to run it, and the girls that are working, the prisoners that get to work inside commissary, are paid something to work inside of it, and that's in the prison budget. So the things that are getting bought, especially with the markup, is a pass through. If you're buying sweatpants, that's not anywhere for anybody to know you're going to have sweatpants. So you're giving them the money for sweatpants plus 30%. They're making a 30% margin, plus they're covering the sweatpants. It's just a pass through. It's not a way for them to support themselves other than the 30% they're charging.
Well, there's charges on everything, isn't there? If you want to be able to communicate with your family and send an email or make a phone call, over $1 for an audio track. I mean, everything has a cost associated with it. I sort of think, God help you if you're poor, and you can't get a reasonable job in prison. I don't know how you're going to survive on the very bare minimum.
Well, and think about it. you're the woman and you might have family and they're living somewhere else and they need to be provided for too. So you're trying to pick between what can you get and what can your family keep for whatever funds there are available. They're real tough choices. And again, what you understand the most is why they all have side hustles, because they really make a pretty good living, those who get into their side hustles. And it makes a big difference on them being able to have anything extra, have an MP3 player, have a decent pair of tennis shoes. Even if they bought it used, you can buy a decent pair of tennis shoes. So it's just the only way that women really survive and or thrive in prison is through side hustles.
Thank you for listening to How to Go to Camp with Katrina McLaren and Cheryl Womack. For more support, check out the Women of Worth website, www.womenofworthwow.org, where you'll find helpful resources including Cheryl's books, Mummy Loves You Everywhere and How to Go to Camp, Surviving in a Women's Federal Prison. Whether you're preparing for the journey or supporting someone through it, remember there's guidance, hope and a community ready to help you navigate this path.